What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you're excited for the Nintendo Direct that just got announced. Hopefully it was this morning. I hope they're not waiting till like later on tonight to announce it. So I'm thinking they probably did it this morning though. But you'll have to let me know down in the comments if they did. And hey, if I'm time traveling right now from last night, you know, feel free to hit the like button if that Direct is showing up. Otherwise, I'm sure this will be fairly awkward, and I'm sure people will let me know about that. But so today, guys, we have a bunch of stuff to get into. We're gonna talk a bit about a system that is finally coming out next year, and they added an interesting bit of support. Of course, the Call of Duty developers decided to laugh at the idea of a Switch port for Black Ops 4 because why not? And Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition was leaked out, and it looks like it's coming to consoles, and that might be the Final Fantasy 15 that the Switch is getting, as we kind of talked about back last year with Gamescom. First, let's get into some of the quick news, and we're going to start right away with Mario Bros. You remember Mario Bros, the original arcade one that they already said is coming to the Switch? As you're seeing here, they put a tweet out, and it will have online play, as we expected. I mean, they've been talking a lot about online play for these NES games. Of course, we saw Balloon Fight, and then we saw Mario 3. Yeah, it looks like they're going to keep the status quo with the Mario arcade game where you and a second player can play online, I guess together against each other and everything, and it's sure, why not? More NES games online, the better. I'm going to be curious how they decide to add it to other games. I guess I don't think Zelda's going to have any online component that I could think of. I don't know. Maybe they'll do something with I don't know, speed runs or something, or time attack. I don't know. They could probably even add an extra mode to that to accommodate the online play. That would be really neat, and that would actually make it worth some of the money just for that. Just have extra modes to compete online for leaderboards and stuff. I would like to see that. Next up, let's talk about Black Ops 4 and the Nintendo Switch. Of course, there were a lot of rumors going around before about a possible Black Ops 4 Nintendo Switch version. And, well, Game Informer sat down with Treyarch's lead design director, and, well, this is what they said.
Any chance Black Ops 4 is coming to Switch?
I just make the shoes.
And that's David Vonderhaar, and yeah, he seemed to just kind of laugh about the idea of a Switch version and then said he just makes the shoes, and they moved on from there with the interview. Now, everyone seems to be reaching out to them, whether it's places like Go Nintendo, I don't know if Game Informer is, Go Nintendo, Nintendo Everything. They seem to be reaching out to see what exactly the laughing was about, whether it was he touched on something that he wasn't allowed to talk about, or he touched on something that was genuinely funny, like Black Ops 4 running on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know. I do know those usually take a 3-year dev cycle, so moving it right to the Switch pretty quickly would probably be kind of tough. And to be honest, that game has its own problems as it is anyway, and then we're still waiting on this Blackout version, the Battle Royale mode. It was just weird to see him just laugh about the idea. Maybe it was genuinely funny to him. Maybe, like I said, there's something going on in the background that people don't know about. Not necessarily that Black Ops 4 is going to it, but I don't know. Maybe they have like a mode, or maybe they have another Call of Duty like that Modern Warfare 2 campaign that we heard about. It's hard to say, or maybe he just thought it was funny, the idea of it going to the Switch, because maybe there was internal testing and they tried to test it and the frame rate was really bad on it or something, and they just said, nah, we're not going to do it. Maybe he was thinking back to that. Hard to say, but I'm sure people will get comments from him or Activision or Treyarch or whoever, but it definitely didn't look very good in that interview. Also, we got more details about Hover, which is coming out later on this month, September 18th, 19th, and 20th, and that's on the PS4, then the Xbox, then the Nintendo Switch. And for those of you who've been asking kind of for like a jet set radio or jet grind radio, as some of us knew it here with the Dreamcast in America, you might want to check this game out, because that's kind of what it's based around. Hover has actually been out on Steam for a little while now. I think it came out months ago on PC, and has very positive reviews and everything on Steam. I played a bit of it. I think they had like it in early access at one point, and I checked it out. And it's kind of a fun parkour style jet grind radio game where you're kind of rolling around on inline skates, and you have kind of that very colorful cell shaded look. And it is coming to all the different systems. It's going to have crossplay between the Xbox One and the Switch, because it does have multiplayer components to it. It's heavily multiplayer. The PS4 version will kind of be off on its own, but they did tell us about resolution, everything. We're going to go over that right now. The Xbox One, Xbox One X, PS4, and PS4 Pro will all have graphics or performance mode. Starting with the base Xbox One, we'll get 1080p at 30 on the graphics, 1080p 45 on performance. PlayStation 4, the base one, graphics are 1080 at 30, or performance is 1080p at 60. Xbox One X will get, according to them, a native 4K 2160p at 30 frames per second, or performance will give you 1440p at 60 frames per second. PlayStation 4 Pro has the graphics mode at 1440p at 30 frames, and then the performance, after the graphics, performance mode 1080p at 60 frames. And then the Nintendo Switch version docked will be an odd resolution of 1824 by 1026 at 30 frames per second. And then undocked, they have it set at a native 720p at 30 frames per second. So I would check this game out if you're looking for just another game that's closer to that art style, that Jet Grind Radio, that Jet Set Radio style. It's a fun game. It's pretty good overall, and it's out later on this month. All right, guys, some of the quick news out of the way. Let's jump into some of the bigger stuff, and we're going to start with Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. And this was, I guess, not crazy unexpected. We know, right, that they are milking this Final Fantasy 15 series, just in general, with all the DLC and the Royal Edition. I'm sure there's an extra exclusive Ultra Royal Edition coming, and they are getting as much money back as they can for this game because they developed the Luminous engine specifically for this game. It's the only game that's used it, and it's very expensive to make your own engine. So a game like this that's taken so long for development, they're trying to get as much money back as they can. That includes making a version for cell phones that launched last year. I believe we even played it here at one point. We checked it out and everything. I know it was talked about at Gamescom last year where they announced it, and then it released later on, and they had like the first episode is free. You can check it out on your phones now, actually. And it looks like it's coming to consoles. At least we know it's coming to the PlayStation 4, and more than likely the Nintendo Switch, as probably, to be honest, porting from the cell phones to the Switch is probably easier than even going from the cell phones to the PS4, as you're doing ARM architecture with the cell phones, now you're moving to the Switch. But it actually showed up on their PlayStation UK, their store, as you're seeing it here. And there's the icon, and that is that's the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition that's showing up. I have no idea why it would be going to the PS4, unless they're just trying to sell the game again, I guess, because you can get the full version on the PlayStation 4, and it's like, the base game's like $15 now. You can go to most stores and pick it up for like super cheap. And of course, the Xbox One version's the same. I remember I got the Xbox One version because I had the PS4 version, and then I bought the Xbox One version for the X. And Redbox had it at one point for like $9, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll go get that. I have no idea why people would want to buy the Pocket Edition, especially if you've already played the regular one. But maybe they want to go through the chapters and get a different kind of viewpoint from it. It's not the exact same game. It's similar. It almost feels like, I guess you'd look at it like a Diablo-style game, like an ARPG, but it looks like it's coming, and to be honest, that Nintendo Direct might introduce it on the Switch, as we've already heard that there were issues with the Luminous engine running on the Switch. This might be the Final Fantasy 15 version that Switch owners get. But what was odd was, originally they said it wouldn't work with controller inputs, and that's why we were kind of figuring, well, that'll probably just stay on cell phones and tablets and whatnot. No, it looks like they figured all of that out, and they're ready to milk the Final Fantasy 15 franchise at least one more time, but let's be real, they'll go back to the well at least a couple more times. Next up, let's talk about Travis Strikes Again, because it seems to be a fairly confusing game for a lot of us. The information was scattered all over the place. It was hard to figure out what this game was going to be exactly, and a lot of people are still kind of confused. So I actually saw a Reddit thread that really compiled a lot of the information that's been gathered and some new information that's shown up at PAX West, and we're going to go take a look at it so you can kind of get an idea of what this game is. I mean, it's coming out in January, and people are still not sure what they're getting out of this game, and when I go over this description, you might actually be more interested in the game because it sounds larger and more interesting than what I even thought it was going to be. So I'm also going to leave a link down in the description because some of this stuff is going to sound crazy, so if you miss any of it, you can go read it from that Reddit thread. So there are technically 8 different games, kind of mini games compiled here. The 8th game is technically a visual novel that kind of tells Travis's story, but the main games start with Electric Thunder Tiger 2. It's an overhead action beat-em-up game. Then there's Coffee and Donuts. It's a side-scrolling post-apocalypse action game. Killer Marathon, which is a pinball and Smash TV style survival action game. Golden Dragon GP is an 80s and 90s style wireframe 3D racing game. I wonder if that's going to be kind of like Tron, maybe, something like that. Life is Destroyed, which is a puzzle action game. Serious Moonlight, which is an open world RPG. That's interesting. I wonder how long that game will be exactly, the little mini game. And then the 7th game has actually not been revealed yet, and then that 8th game is a visual novel that kind of just tells more about Travis's story. And we heard about all those collaborations. It appears to only be t-shirts. So we've seen t-shirts kind of shown. I know we just saw the Morphe's Law one. It looks like that is like the entirety, just shirts. That's the collaboration, which is a shame because I kind of wanted a bit more, I guess, but if you remember back at the Nindies presentation, we saw Suda show his, I guess it was a Shovel Knight t-shirt, and technically he was showing us what the collaboration was right there, so I maybe we were expecting too much. I thought we were going to go into different game worlds, so like we'd go into the Morphe's Law world, and we'd go into the Shovel Knight world, and anyone else they pick out. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen, but it looks like it's mostly apparel based. But what was very interesting is Suda51 also talked to Game Informer, and it looks like after this game he does want to make No More Heroes 3. I feel like the sales of this game are going to determine the likelihood of that. So I will say this, you might not be interested, but maybe you really like the No More Heroes, I guess, just the lore, the world they've built from the previous games. You might want to look into Travis Strikes Again, because I have a feeling No More Heroes 3 might hinge on how well this game does. Just they want to see how much more money they should put into this franchise. So keep that in mind as well, because I have a feeling after this game launches, Suda's going to go around shopping for No More Heroes 3 to see if someone wants to back it. And if it does well enough, maybe Nintendo will pick that one up too. We'll see. Next up, let's talk about Spider-Man, because it is now 2 days away. We got to get through today, we got to get through tomorrow, and then Friday we can play it, after work, I guess, for a lot of people. But Friday we can play it, and then we got the whole weekend to play it. And if you were concerned about possibly the open world aspect, as that can kind of hurt, I guess, the focus of the game and possibly even review scores, it looks like Spider-Man reviewed well. It reviewed very well, as it's currently at an 87 on Metacritic. I know that changes. Like by today, it could have changed depending on if people dropped in better reviews than the average or worse reviews. It seems to be in the high 80s though, which is good for an open world style game like this. And it looks like a lot of the bigger websites gave it good reviews. This is actually a chart that Falcon Box on Twitter made, and you can see DualShockers 10 out of 10, Game Informer 9.5 out of 10, GameSpot 9 out of 10, Push Square 9 out of 10, and it kind of goes on and on. I did see some reviews putting it in like the 6s and the 7s, and I saw some of the remarks about how some of the game can be kind of repetitive. It seemed like some of the side missions might have like some repetitive nature. Something you get out of open world games at times. There are times where you're maybe doing a mission and it feels exactly like the other mission because they just have these scattered around, like, save this person from these thugs or something, and you got to go beat them up, and it's just like the last one you did. So it's kind of that feeling of getting that repetitive nature, but according to them, it's very rewarding. There is like a full leveling system, and it's looking good. I'm in on this. This is gonna be great. And of course, Digital Foundry did their thing, especially since we had all the talk of a Spider-Man downgrade. And I will say, leading up to this, they were telling people it's not been downgraded. It has not been downgraded, and they technically proved it in their video. Now, of course, they gave us all of the resolution number, which is like a PS4 Pro ranges from like 3456 by 1944 to 2560 by 1368, which are probably things you're not going to completely notice while you're swinging through and stopping bad guys and everything. With how fast that game appeared to be moving, it didn't really seem like something you're going to notice too much, but like the base PS4, for example, has an adaptive resolution between like 1080p and 900p, and they seem to have 30 frames per second across the board. They went very in-depth. I would check this video out. It was really cool. And then they definitely went in-depth on the downgrade situation, where they seem to come to the conclusion that it was a change in art style, as the resolution seems to be the same between the two, where they went from a more plastic looking suit to a more cloth looking suit. And the puddle thing, I don't know. They didn't even really have an idea as to completely why. They had theories, but it wasn't like blatantly obvious as to why they did that. But it does not look like, at least according to them who get really into it, that it was an obvious downgrade in any way. In fact, they even go as far as to say it's an upgrade. So yeah, let's go. The hype train is in full effect. Friday coming up. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Spider-Man's gonna be awesome. I'm on board with that big time. I might actually have the console coming if Amazon can get that out to me. And if they do, we're going to be unboxing that thing on Friday, and it's going to be awesome. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about the Poly Mega. It's something that I wasn't sure if it was actually going to come out, as I believe at one point they were looking for investors. I think they found one, because originally they were going to crowdsource the thing, and then they pulled down crowdsourcing, or at least the idea of it, saying that they found a private investor. And they're coming to market with it, appears to be anyway, next year. They started pre-orders, they put a video out kind of showing off the idea of it and what they're looking to accomplish. It's going to be a modular retro system, essentially, designed to play a ton of systems. We're talking like TurboGrafx, Mega Drive or Genesis, and Super Nintendo, the basics cartridge and everything, something we can do already. But then they go a step further and they go into the disc-based systems, including Sega Saturn. They introduced that yesterday in their video, and that caught me by surprise, because the Sega Saturn still has issues in like the emulation in the aftermarket world, but they appear to be taking a shot at it, and that's going to be a part of it. It looks like it's going to be a module you can get that'll play CDs from the Neo Geo CD, right? The Turbo Duo, those CDs that you could get. PS1, it's looking pretty good. This has a lot of appeal because of the promises they're making, and next year we're going to see, they started pre-orders at $250, but their site appeared to have crashed. They later said that they were under a DDoS attack for some reason, I don't know why, but we'll see. I might actually put a pre-order in for this just to get it, so we can check it out and take it apart and everything and see how they're getting Sega Saturn to work on this thing. It's gonna be pretty interesting, but that won't be till next year. And hey, maybe I'll get that and my Atari VCS at the same time. If this system beats the Atari VCS to market, I am going to be absolutely just blown away. And guys, that's where we're gonna leave News Wave today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you like the video, dislike it if not. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is the Final Fantasy 15, the Pocket Edition. Do you think that would work on the Switch, or do you want the full Final Fantasy 15 version on the Switch and you don't want to hear about this Pocket Edition, you want the full thing? Let me know about that down below. I feel like there's gonna be people on either side, or people just don't care about like RPGs and stuff. You might not, and that's fine. If you don't, what about Spider-Man? Are you on board with the hype now after seeing the reviews? And Friday's coming up, we're gonna be playing Spider-Man all weekend. Let me know, guys, down below. I'm very curious. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.